Oh, there we go. Hey guys, long time no see. Today we're going to talk about how to improve your development and support. And through that, we're going to use the AEA method, Argument Evidence Analysis. Now, I kind of introduced this lesson as one of the hardest lessons I'm going to teach you. It's not hard necessarily in a concept sense, but it's definitely hard in how are you going to master this sense. As much as when you first learn to play basketball, you have to teach your body to always dribble or else you get called for a travel. Well, in writing, you need to always remind yourself to be logical. Writing an essay is like trying to give someone directions with your car. Let's say your buddy just drove up here to Seattle from California. Does not know the city, doesn't know how to get around, and you're like, oh, we're going to go meet for drinks down in Ballard. Just jump in your car and follow me. Now, if you were giving this buddy directions in your car, you would have to make sure you stopped at every stoplight so your buddy was behind you, that you weren't just tearing ass through each one, that you might accidentally lose him. If you're going to take a right turn, you're going to want to put on your signal extra early, move one lane at a time, so that your friend can follow you, that they can catch your drift. When you're writing an essay, it's the exact same way. I don't know what's inside your brain, but I want to follow. I want to be on your team and find out what's on your brain and where you're going. So you got to slow down and let me follow your brain train. All right? The way you let me follow your brain train is by using, here's a big one, logic. Logic is the smallest foundation of kind of human understanding. The sky is blue. And then I can look at the sky and see that it's blue. I made a claim, and you have evidence of that claim, and so now you believe me. I made a logical statement. If I say, scary psychedelic clowns chase me at night, now you could stand by my bed and watch me to see if I get chased by scary clowns at night, but if I meant, well, it's in my dreams and you'll never understand, well, that isn't logical. There's no way for me to make a claim, back it up for evidence, so that you can choose to believe me or not, or choose to be convinced or not. Logic. The Greeks, pretty much invented that the smallest unit of logic, to be believed, because to the Greeks, with political power, that if I stood in front of 1,000 people, got them to believe me, I had a resolution and voted, I would automatically have power in a democracy. They realized that logic had to be encouraged, and that it was the way to get people to follow you. The smallest unit of logic is you make a claim, you back up that claim with evidence, and then you explain how the evidence backs up your claim. The opposite of logic is not only insanity, but the opposite of logic is the because I said so. Hopefully you guys already did that free write. There's nothing worse than hearing your mom or your boss or just someone say, you have to do this because I said so. Or this is the way it is because I said so. This person is not willing to do their due diligence and prove to you logically that they're someone to be trusted or that their claims are believable. So I want to make sure that when you write your essays, you never fall into the because I said so trap. Because all it really means is, A, you're lazy, and B, you're disrespecting my time because you don't think it's worth your time to prove your point to me. So for example, I'm going to walk you through the argument, evidence, analysis structure. Claim is argument, evidence is evidence, and then analysis is explanation. Other teachers will call it, they'll call it PI, point, illustration, explanation, and I always get confused between illustration and explanation, so let's stick to AEA. Well, now I want to give you an example of AEA. I'm going to walk you through logic at its most fundamental basis. I'm going to make a claim, I'm going to back it up with evidence, and then I'm going to explain how the evidence proves my claim. Argument. The Philadelphia Eagles are the best NFL franchise. Some of you guys probably believe me. If you do, gold star, 100%. Some of you guys probably think I'm full of it. Some of you guys are probably Cowboys fans, and if you are, there's a special place in hell for you. I'm just kidding. Argument. Philadelphia Eagles are the best franchise in the NFL. Well, now, you ask me, prove it. It's the natural human need. You have to hear evidence. This is where the Greeks go back from, where they found the smallest basis of logic. Prove it. Well, I'll tell you that the Philadelphia Eagles have 367 consecutive sellouts. That is the NFL record by far. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at 309. The Green Bay Packers are at 301. The Philadelphia Eagles' consecutive sellouts goes back to 1984. No other franchise comes close. So I just gave you some evidence. But does that prove that they're the best NFL franchise? I certainly didn't talk about Super Bowl rings. I certainly didn't talk about win-loss percentage. I gave you evidence. Don't ever assume that your evidence just naturally proves your argument. It is your job as a writer, it is your job as an essayist to explain how and why the evidence proves the argument. And that's where your analysis comes in. It's the hows and whys. How and why does the evidence prove the argument? So what I'll say is, and here's where I gotta really get warmed up. The Philadelphia Eagles have the most consecutive sellouts, dating back to 1984. If you know anything about football, the Eagles have been abysmal from 1984 pretty much to today. In the last 10 years, they've definitely had a renaissance under Andy Reid, but for the first 15 years of that record, they were shit. Okay, but they still sell out anyway. That means people who can afford season tickets, like doctors and lawyers, are buying tickets. But that means people who can't afford season tickets, like plumbers and bus drivers and community college teachers, are also filling the stands religiously, week in and week out. How does this prove that they're the best NFL franchise? Well, let me tell you how, and let me tell you why. The Philadelphia Eagles are such a part of the mindset and the culture of that region that millions of people care about their exploits every Sunday. They care about their exploits through the offseason. So the legend of that team has grown to mythic proportions. They're like Arthurian legends and or superheroes, so that millions of years from now, when the American Empire is just dust and no one remembers anything about us, there will still be kind of whisperings in the subconscious about these men who wore midnight green, these men called the Philadelphia Eagles. They will be remembered as in demigods, and therefore, when the trophies of the Green Bay Packers, when the championships of the Pittsburgh Steelers are rotten and forgotten, there will be a subset of humanity that will never forget and always love the Philadelphia Eagles. They have achieved immortality. So, did I convince you? Did I? I hope so. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not. I'm writing an essay. I don't need to win. We're more lawyers than scientists. Remember that. We're more lawyers than scientists. I just need to make you think beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that maybe I have a point. If you are convinced that maybe I have a point, I win. You don't have to completely drink my Kool-Aid. You just have to think maybe he has a point. That means I was logical. That means I wrote something you could follow. Now you'll notice I was kind of sneaky. I didn't say the best NFL team, because team could be records. I didn't say successful. I said franchise, and the definition of franchise is definitely up for interpretation. I could have talked about financial or anything, but I stuck on like a cultural vibe. Argument, evidence, analysis. It's one of the hardest lessons you guys are going to learn, because you have to remember that every point you're exploring in an essay, you've got to make a point, back it up with rock-solid evidence from the outside world, and then explain how the rock-solid evidence from your outside world proves your point. Awesome. So now we're going to look at what an essay looks like. What a paragraph looks like. You'll see that a paragraph always starts with the topic sentence, which is a big claim. Then you go to your argument next, which is a more specific claim. Then you go to an evidence, which is something outside your brain, something that belongs to someone else or it's general data. And then you slowly weave back through your analysis to say how and why your evidence proves your argument. So it's kind of like weaving. You go forward and you go backwards. You go forward and then you go backwards. And you make sure that you dot every I, you cross every T, and you keep it so tight that your essay holds water, that it's watertight. So that's a logic of AEA, the smallest unit of logic. If in your essay you're going to make an argument, you're going to make a claim, well, you better back it up with evidence. You have got to back up every argument with evidence. And then if you give me evidence, you better give me 4 to 5 sentences of analysis. If you remember from my Philadelphia Eagles example, I really talked a long time about how and why they were the best franchise. I backed up my claim. That's the meat of your logic, is your hows and whys, because the evidence never makes the point on its own. 1 sentence argument, 1 sentence evidence, 4 to 5 of analysis. Remember that ratio. That's the smallest unit of logic. Now let's zoom out even bigger to look at paragraphs in general. You never want to just club someone on the head and say, after the commercial break, at the end of one paragraph, there's that white line before the next paragraph starts. It's kind of the commercial break where the reader's brain can wander, say, oh, I want a sandwich, oh, I'm going to go out, and walk the dog or change the channel. You want to keep their brain in your essay. So after that commercial break, when they jump down to the next paragraph, you don't want to throw your face right in the thick of it and say, oh my God, I want to talk about David Brooks again. You want to start broader. Remind them that this essay resonates with them, that maybe there's something in this essay that they can take away and relate to themselves. So you always want to start with a broader concept-based claim first. It's like the spoonful of sugar which will draw your reader in. So your topic is always a broad concept-based claim, and then your argument is more of a text-based specific claim. So here's an example from your Spider-Man essay. Sexism is nurtured in American high schools. That's a big statement, Women probably care, men probably care. Sexism is a big topic. Everyone on planet Earth is somehow related to it. Sexism. And then a more specific, where we're still talking about sexism, it's a zoom in from our topic, but now it's through our text, we're going to say, Peter Parker is a sexist. Boom. Very specific text-based claim, which is kind of a zoom in about sexism in America. This is what a paragraph in relation to your overall essay looks like. Your argument, as I just said, is a zoomed-in text-based claim that is derived from your more concept-based claim in your topic. Now, both of these are woven and connected to your thesis. The argument comes more from the text are you exploring of your thesis, and the topic comes from the how does the thesis apply to me. So remember that both your claims to start every paragraph, whether it's a concept-based claim coming from your topic or a text-based claim coming from your arg, both derive from and support your thesis. And then you build the rest of your paragraph from those claims. Your evidence comes next, and then your analysis weaves back. You can see it's green. Your analysis first weaves back to say how and why your EVI proves your arg. How and why your EVI proves your arg. Maybe 2 sentences do that. Then you weave back even more. How and why your arg proves your topic. So now you're moving out from the text and bigger to your larger concept-based claim. And then lastly, at the end of each AEA chain, you want your last analysis to weave all the way back to your thesis. How and why your topic supports and proves your thesis. That is how you build a paragraph. I might not be making the most sense. Practice makes perfect. It's still really early in the quarter. We learn by doing. Just keep writing essays, keep writing artifacts, and hopefully we'll get better. Awesome. I also want to talk about how do we identify and make sure we're writing sentences that have arguments, evidence, and analysis. Well, your argument sentences are always going to be declaratives. It's going to be positive statements. Positive, not happy, but like, I am making a statement. It's not a question. It's not just a subtle observation. Well, it's a strong claim. Your evidence is always going to be citations or quotes or for example, stuff like that. And your analysis is always as explainy and hows and why. So you always want to go back and read your paragraphs and make sure you're following that process. Argument, evidence, analysis. Really good writers can, in 1 sentence, make a claim, back it up, and start to explain it. But we're not there yet. So let's slow a roll and do 1 sentence for argument, 1 sentence for evidence, and then 4 to 5 separate sentences for analysis. All right? Get cracking, team.